the reasons why people are constantly chasing happiness. So it's almost like, once I get that job, then I'll be happy. Once I get the promotion, I'll be happy. Why are people constantly in this state of, when I get that next thing, that's when I'm going to be happy?
Oh, I think there's a whole industry that's geared around us thinking that when we get the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, which is why I think the minimalist movement has now come to the fore in a way that it never has before. There's can I think of his name? I can't. He's a doctor in psychology, and he has this idea that happiness comes from striving. And I think that when we realise that happiness is moments, and sometimes those moments link together over a period of time, so you have maybe weeks or a couple of months or maybe a couple of years of happiness, but generally that isn't most people's experience. You have a moment in a day where you feel extreme happiness. This idea that happiness is outside of ourselves, that's where people fall over. Because actually, coming back to personal power, doing the internal work, which is the really hard work, is a really good way of actually gauging what does happiness look like to you. Some people can walk down the street and see a butterfly, and that will be the most joyous thing. I'm a butterfly person, so if I see a butterfly, I'm like, here you are, at last. But some people would never even see that because they're too busy. That's not what happiness looks like to them. So I think we need to sort of work out for us as individuals, what does happiness feel like? You know, this idea that happiness is out there one day when I've earned a certain amount of money to get the car, to get the house, to get the thing, but all the while you're doing that, you're completely exhausted. I'm not sure that's what happiness feels like. You know, so I think it's for each of us individually to work out, what does happiness feel like? Same with success. What does it feel like? Sometimes we don't even know what it looks like. We have an idea of what we think society says it is, but that isn't necessarily success for everyone. And so we have to take the time to work out, what does happiness feel like for us, what does success look like, and then take the time to do the work.
You mentioned before, internal work is one of the most important things and also one of the hardest things. What should people, I suppose, be doing from an internal point of view to obviously look at happiness and success?
Oh, it's so hard, actually. It's not because there isn't a blanket answer to that. I think what I would say is take time. You know, the way that when people go on holidays, or if they just go away for the weekend, and you get kind of insights into your life or into what's happening in a way that you don't in your day-to-day. So to actually take the time sometimes and to reflect, this is where I am in life right now. Is this where I thought I would be? If not, why not? And is this where I wanted to be? And if the answer is no, what led me here and what am I going to do to move forward? But I don't want to give the impression that that's just kind of like a 10-point quiz that you just do, and then by the time you finish the quiz, you know, you're on your way. But to start asking those questions, am I where I want to be? Not just externally, am I in the suburb I want to live? I don't mean that at all. Am I the human being that I want to be on this planet? Am I contributing in the way that I want to be contributing? Am I surrounded by the sorts of people that I feel safe with? Those are the sorts of questions that matter.
Where should they start if they had to start with one thing?
Netflix? No, I'm joking.
There's a documentary on The Minimalist.
Oh, was there?
In Netflix.
That is a great documentary,
So
The Minimalist. They could start there. Where do people start? It's good. I'm a fan of questions. That's my work as a coach. I think one of the questions is, like I've just said, am I where I want to be now? Where do I want to be? And sometimes people don't know, so sometimes that's the question, why don't I know? Why don't I know where I want to be in the future? And to work that out, it does take time. There's a reason why people put on backpacks and go hiking into the wild yonder, you know, or when in our 20s going off to India, whatever the trip is, and it's to literally take yourself out of your life to ask yourself the questions. And they're confronting questions, because if you don't get the answers that you had hoped for, then you've got to do something about it. Because once you know the answer, very few of us can actually just sit and pretend that we don't know anymore. And that's why it becomes confronting.